Amid the ever-escalating pace of life in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, you'll find a residential development that still bears the name of one of the biggest low-country industries of the 19th century. And back among the palms and pines of this neighborhood, you'll see a piece of that history, seemingly frozen in time. Residents call it the chimney, but in the mid-1800s, it was the lifeblood of big industry. Dennis Babbage spent several weeks restoring the structure. He's done this kind of work for nearly 3 decades. Joe McConnell, a resident of BrickYard Plantation, teamed up with Dennis to talk history and why this brick structure is and was so important.
So they had a massive brick operation here. All the resources were right here together. They had the clay, they had the sand, they had the steam boiler, they had the chimney, they had the transportation to carry the brick from here, the manufacturing facility, out to the point of delivery.
They were the Holback brothers, John and Henry, but because of copyright limitations, we can't show you their pictures. But it was obvious that they made their mark on the area. The then famous architects knew that creating brick would support their construction needs, and this chimney was the centerpiece of it all.
Well, there's something I want to show you about the construction of this chimney. This is a utilitarian chimney, but it's a very beautiful detail. You've got what we call a stretcher course here and a header course there, every other one. That's called an English bond. Now in the header courses, you've got it's called a Queen's closure, this little tiny brick. And you're going to find one just like it on the other side. And that repeats every other course from the bottom to the top.
It was a huge operation, and at its height, the bricks brought in $28,000 a year. And that was almost 200 years ago.
In 1850, they made 4 million bricks back here.
4 million bricks in that 1 year.
In 1 year.
Old photos show portions of the brick-making compound. This was the site located in what is now the BrickYard subdivision of BrickYard Plantation. The structures might have been the labor and planning buildings. There was a commissary that is thought to have housed eating and sleeping areas. And of course, the chimney. This old chimney was needed to provide the power that was used to mold the brick. That's what it was for. So here's what happened. The soft clay and sand were blended together. And then in that machine, they were molded in a wooden box. And after the molding, it went to the kilns, where it was burned and made into the brick that we all know. Now this happened about 250 feet away from this chimney, but it happened every day. And because of it, this was a major, major operation. The operation depended on the natural materials that came from under these waters. And in the mid-1800s, those materials were found right here. This is known as Butterfly Lake. Slaves worked to dig that out to create what we have today as BrickYard. And what is left is the lake and all of the memories of what happened here to make this such a huge industry.
Dennis, what are these outlets at for right here that we see throughout the structure?
Well, there's a flue inside of this flue, which would run warmer than the outside. And as it went up, the cold air would come in through these holes, once again, all the way up. And it had kind of an afterburner effect, I guess, and it just
sucked it up
all the harder to get everything up and out of here.
So the purpose of this chimney was to take the hot gases and get them up and out and move down out.
From the boiler, right?
From the boiler.
Get them up and away from the workers, and that's what it did.
Thanks to the chimney, the brick are formed. From there, they go into kilns that range all the way up and down Horlback Creek, 883 feet long. That's almost 3 football fields. And when it's finished, it is sorted and put on barges and then headed out to its destinations. And you know what? Some of that brick is still here today, almost 200 years later. When the bricks were burned in the kilns, cooled and sorted, they were loaded onto barges that waited on the other side of a 10-foot tall man-made wall that comes from underground on Horlback Creek. In the 19th century, barges lined the wall to take out shipments of brick throughout the Low Country, including Fort Sumter, where the first shots of the Civil War were fired, and Castle Pinckney, located on Chutes Folly Island in the Charleston Harbor. It was originally constructed to defend Charleston from enemy forces. This wall still remains. It is a part of today's BrickYard Plantation dock, and it all happened in large part because of this old chimney.
Now, this chimney's 3 feet narrower at the top than it is at the bottom.
Okay.
But that detail stays the same. You look at it, it goes all the way up on both sides, on all 4 corners. You say, well, how can they do that when the courses are different lengths? They made up for it in the middle where you can't see it. That's a particularly beautiful way to do it. I think it's real pretty.
All of the BrickYard operation went quiet in the 1900s. All of the parts of this massive industry were dismantled, all except the chimney. Now, I call her the lady because after all of these years, she is still so beautiful. This architectural marvel has been preserved thanks to the work of Dennis Babbage. Some of it had to be repaired. It is believed that inquiring visitors chipped away at the brick inside and out. Maybe they hoped to take a piece of this old lady home with them, but every piece of her belongs here. And to ensure that the interior of the structure remained strong, an iron gate was created by the Philip Simmons Foundation of Charleston. Funded by BrickYard Plantation residents, it has been mounted so that future generations can see history as it was and as it still stands today.
Somebody really knew what they were doing. They did a beautiful job of it.
So if this was built in 1843, this has been here a very long time.
175 years or so.
And it's withstood all the changes in the weather and the climate, and the integrity of the brick is
Pretty good. I thought this thing was in pretty good shape. It needed a little care and attention, but it's certainly not falling down by any means.
So you think it's going to last maybe another 150, 175 years?
Well, if it doesn't, they can call me back and I'll fix it
All right,
again.
fair enough. We'll call you back.